and welcome to the 4th episode of Movies, Cards, and the Stars, SleepyHollow. I'm Natalie. I read tarot cards over on YouTube. You can learn more about me through my website, theartigan.com. Watch Natalie on YouTube and on TikTok, and patreon.com/theartigan. If you'd like to see or hear more of me, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications. Lastly, please make sure to watch the films before listening to my podcast series, as they do include spoilers. The themes we'll explore in today's meditation are how Gemini energy is woven through TimBurton's classic, Sleepy Hollow. Let's begin with an introduction to Gemini's planetary ruler, Mercury. Mercury was known to the Greeks as Hermes, the messenger god. Mercury is the mechanism with which we receive data and the process in which we de-scramble it into meaning, thoughts, ideas, memories, and dreams, which can all be flighty, mischievous, or magical, as mercurial elements are always in motion and shifting. Sleepy Hollow opens with Ichabod Crane pleading for science and is then sent to prove the credibility of science as a constable to investigate these mysterious murders. His name, his ideas, and his methods are all on the line. I think he's a Gemini, like Johnny Depp, and you'll see why I think so. Firstly, in his recent testimony in his defamation lawsuit, Johnny Depp said that acting is behavior and reactions. That's an extremely Gemini thing to say, which he is, born June 9th. Ichabod is always moving, constantly reacting. Gemini people and high Mercury people are like that. Constantly self-refreshing human web pages. Ichabod isn't morbid or dark at all. This is not Scorpio or Pluto or even Capricorn we're talking about. Although the time period and the TimBurton aesthetic could, at first glance, have us think otherwise. No. Ichabod is too squeamish for anything deep like that. It's his curiosity that drives him, not meaning or justice or even resolution. It's pure thirst for information. Clues that lead to more clues that lead to more clues. If you're a Gemini sun, moon, rising, have a third house stellium, highly aspected, domiciled, or exalted Mercury, or Gemini or Mercury on any of your notable axes, you know that this information intake is addictive. It's never enough. There's always more to learn and find out. It's like pulling at a thread instead of cutting it with scissors. So books and knowledge and historic family details that may be hidden and withheld are only that much more tantalizing. It's not worth it to try and hide or conceal from Gemini Mercury energy. That's like putting a crow in a locked cage. They'll only rise to the challenge of picking the lock to get out. In the film, Ichabod says, "It is truth, but truth is not always appearance." Gemini Mercury energy knows this in their soul, so that's how they know to keep searching and to keep learning. The healthy, positive, conscious manifestation of Gemini Mercury energy is not at all interested in judgments, final thoughts, final decisions, or early commitments. That's for Sagittarius. Mercury moves us through alertness, mania, drowsiness, paranoia, and altered states of data downloading. From connecting to source, to rationalizing intellect, to creative imagination, to interpreting symbolism, we can implement all these mercurially creative ways of learning, understanding, and when we process into Sagittarius, into knowing. Mercury helms the horizon of the infinite potentialities of thoughts, ideas, and creativity in perpetual flow. True to Gemini, Hermes form, this lack of discernment in the pursuit of information gets Ichabod into all kinds of interesting situations as he delves deeper into the mystery. The zodiac sign on your third house cusp will describe how you take in information and how you convey it to others. In the tarot, look to the entire suit of swords as they govern everything I describe here in this podcast. For instance, running into the Three of Swords, piercing a bulbous red heart, could see you following a breadcrumb of thinking that leads you to pain, disappointment, heartbreak, and loss of a positive opinion of someone or something. While the Four of Swords in your reading lends to a mental healing and rest from whatever may have been previously mentally distressing. We see Ichabod resting and sleeping many times in the film, like when he faints, for instance. It's like his constantly refreshing web pages need a total, complete shutdown and restart because he's so overwhelmed. Mercury is the sponsor at our bedside as we fall asleep and come to, disappearing into the light and fading into the darkness. Mercury is that space in between, as that is where the motion happens. The flexibility, the shifty maneuvers of the liminal and subliminal spaces in our minds, in our relationships, and in our life situations. Gemini is the sign of the siblings, and the pictogram, the symbol is of two human twins. So sibling relationships and the symbolism of sibling relationships is the most important for Gemini prominent people. In the film, Ichabod takes on his young apprentice under his wing who goes along with him on the adventure of the mystery and is an energy that helps balance him. Gemini energy is helped in their self-definition by this playoff of another person. So just like how a Gemini might not know what they really think about something until they're already talking about it, they may not have a grasp on who they really are until they can visibly see another person in close relationship that they can then say who they are not, which, growing up, can be siblings. The Aries sign is detached, which allows them to try on different personas and personalities, different personality and character traits to see how they fit and to see how they like them. Again, growing up with siblings allows the Gemini-ruled person to experiment with personhood in a detached, separate way in order to help better define who they are as an individual. The open-mindedness and detachment, however, is key. Ichabod was able to change his position based on new information, to see where following this new information took him. He was shocked to see the headless horseman with his own two eyes, and he fainted. But then, upon awakening, he immediately accepted the supernatural. After a lifetime of advocating for progressive scientific methods. That's a massive 180. That's a big flip. All of a sudden, just to change his whole mind on a dime. But that's because he had his first-hand experience to inform his mental attitude shift, not based on hearsay or rumors. To use the full powers of Mercury, you'll use your intellect, intuition, memory, psychic ability, and imagination to continue a healthy flow of moving interpretation without getting stuck on any one fixation. Mercury is to help us experience a breakthrough, cross a threshold, transition, and decide what step to take at a crossroads in life. Ichabod's dad killed his mom because of getting stuck on one idea and taking it to an extreme. Ichabod's dad personifies a toxic Sagittarius energy so perfectly in his religious righteousness and the toxicity of a viral idea that hurts themselves, their families, and perpetuates at first disdain, then hatred, then violence against others. Ichabod is a natural opposite in his Gemini form and personifies the flexibility of Mercury, Gemini, and the swiftness of the court cards in the tarot, the page, knight, Queen, and King of Swords. The minor arcana of the tarot outline a progression of growth, and in the suit of swords, it's a mental expansion that can develop into solid mental strengths. When we're wise, we have the power, that is to say, the ability to discern the difference between choices and decisions. Mercury helps us get into and get out of situations, relationships, and mental patterning. To do this, Mercury moves our attention between conscious awareness and subconscious intelligence. The tarot helps us understand our own mental blind spots, so we are empowered with the free will choice to decide to turn them into mental strengths if we choose. When Ichabod says, "Perhaps there's a bit of a witch in you, Katrina," she responds, "Why do you say that?" He answers, "Because you have bewitched me." This is just such a sweet example of Geminian self-expression, so witty and so in between, which is where Mercury lives most of the time, whereas the rest of us only experience during transition. Here, he's basically transitioning the relationship from one realm of familiarity to one of intimacy in his own way, speaking to both of their respective worlds, his of science and fact and analysis and proof, and hers of magic, and creating with his words a bridge of love between them. In the tarot, this would be an Ace of Swords moment when the power of the truth reveals itself, begins a new chapter or story based on this truth, and guides the situation through the transition from a death of ignorance into the birth of a new beginning. Mercury lives in the gray space betwixt. In Ichabod's case, he's solving a murder mystery. The truth, a secret, is a totally different allure than for a Scorpio who's trying to deduce the answer. For the Gemini experience, it's more like a brainworm or an itchy mind. That's why Gemini loves riddles. In regular life, living in this perpetual gray space can make Geminian mercurial people elusive and difficult to pin down or get a straight answer from. A king or queen of swords will be the most mature mind, the most strategic, and operating on the highest, most elevated mental levels. Ichabod says in the film, "If there is guilt, I cannot change it." He says he's pinned by a chain of reasoning. Young Masbeth replies that he is bewitched by reason. Ichabod says he's beaten down by it, that evil has many masks, none so dangerous as the mask of virtue. This is where the coloring of the pain of his childhood casts a shadow over his present-day reality, causing a corruption of his normally agile mind. It's the pain of the religious righteousness and its resulting mental wounding that compromises Ichabod's mind and causes him to arrive at the wrong conclusion, falsely accusing in his mind Katrina Van Tassel of criminal witchery, condemning a woman who practices witchcraft, stepping into the toxic judgmental role of his own father who condemned his own mother for the same allegations of criminal magic. The trauma of his childhood creates a mental wound, a psychic wound, a painful mental imprint that takes a piece of who he really is away from him. It's because of this pain that he doesn't trust real virtue, as displayed by Katrina Van Tassel. He's suspicious and rushes to a conclusion that she's to blame, that she's the one controlling the headless horseman. Whatever area of life Gemini rules in your chart is where you're designed to take in information, Keep an open mind to new evidence, taking in clue after clue without rushing to make a firm conclusion before you have all the information in front of you, and to be honestly unbiased, so that you can allow your intuition to make the connections between the bits of information in an honest way. He only made a mistake in his investigation when he cast a judgment and falsely accused Katrina in his mind. An overwhelming number of the sword cards in the tarot are dark and painful. It's a long road to achieve mental peace, clarity, and confidence. We're meant to flow from idea to idea. Casting that premature judgment stops the flow of mental energy. So in the Justice card, the weighing of the scales represents this taking in information for consideration, while the sword pointing up, held, represents the final judgment. For when we make a judgment about anything or anyone, we're resigned to stop taking in any new information or considering any new evidence, strangling our own natural curiosity. Stress, insecurity, fears, depression, sadness, jealousy, anger, whatever makes you make that premature judgment, keep a lookout for it. Because first you must be honest with yourself so you can identify what your own personal mental energies and imprints are, so that you can decide if they're patterns that support your life or if you want to discontinue this patterning. We all have something, we all pick our poison. So know that what negative mental aberrations or pop-up windows that come up for you repeatedly that interrupt your mental flow, know that everyone else has one too. So if you can be self-aware, you can tell if the person you're talking to is going to be as self-aware or if they're not. Use this Gemini energy to detach from personally identifying with your thoughts, and it'll help you release the ones that self-sabotage and embrace the ones that support your happiness in life. Metaphorically speaking, Mercury, Hermes, is the god that can lead us to spiritual gold. For Ichabod, that glance at the cut on the hand piqued his curiosity and brought him back to himself, back to his natural state, and allowed him to resume his mental flow. He followed the clues, solved the mystery, and together with Katrina and young Masbeth, returned the skull to the Hessian and put the mystery and mayhem of SleepyHollow to rest. The film ends with the new family stepping into a very Geminian scene, the bustling metropolis of New York City. And as Gemini rules the third house of siblings as well as neighborhood and the hustle and bustle of a booming urban city, pulsing with the constant flow of human activity, it's a perfectly mercurial ending to a perfectly mercurial film. I hope that you've enjoyed this week's meditation. I'll be back next Wednesday with another episode. Please let me know your movie requests in the comments below on the YouTube channel Watch Natalie. We'll pick a new movie next week to meditate on how it connects to tarot and astrology for a fun and easy way to elevate our overall understanding of ourselves, our lives, and each other. Until then, I wish you many magical blessings upon all of your magical heads, darlings. Mwah!